I don't usually cry watching films. I find very few films can grab me emotionally enough to knock some tears loose. But Christmas films, oh boy, they can get my eyes going like a garden hose.
Niagara Falls, Frankie Angel.
In fact, there's enough Christmas films that make me cry to make a whole list of them, which is what you're currently watching. Hello. So let's take a look at the 7 Christmas films that make me cry every single time I watch them. The Polar Express is a film that mostly consists of elaborate set pieces and frankly weird imagery, with surprisingly little in the way of actual characterisation. I mean, only one character in the film even gets a name. Together with the potentially off-putting, uncanny visual style, you'd be forgiven for thinking there's no heart in this movie at all. But I assure you that there is, and it stems from one part of the film that frequently gets overlooked: the music. I personally believe that this film has the best musical score of any film, and the characterisation and central message is tied to sound. When Billy, the only kid in the film with a name, opens up to the other kids, it's through singing. The main character's doubt in Santa is represented by the ringing of bells, which can only be heard by those who truly believe. As such, we the audience hear the bells for the first time as the protagonist does, and when we do, we feel the emotion he's going through in that moment. So that moment with the bell and the swelling theme is my first pick. The moment he hears those bells, I start crying. And then at the end of the film, when he's narrating, telling us that eventually the bells stopped ringing for everyone he knew except for him, I just can't not cry. Arthur Christmas has a few cry-worthy moments, but the best has to be when all of the Santa family finally deliver the missing present and Arthur asks them all to stay and watch the kid open it. Here, all the emotion is conveyed not through words, but simply the looks on the characters' faces. Arthur is watching with pure joy, Steve is almost baffled and confused by it, and Santa then gives a look from Arthur to Steve, and then tells Steve that Arthur should be the new Santa. And then the pair of them look at Arthur, who's still enamoured with the joy he's brought to the little girl, and they both agree. Again, there's only like one line of dialogue here. It's all expressed in the emotion in the characters' faces, which is an even more impressive feat with it being CGI, and not just any CGI, Aardman CGI with the small eyeballs. Somehow they managed to convey all of that just with those tiny little eyeballs. And yeah, it definitely makes me cry every time. The film Scrooged is a modern day retelling of Scrooge. Well, modern as in it was back in the 1980s. Here, Bill Murray plays a CEO of a television company who are putting on a live show of A Christmas Carol, and while this is happening, he himself is visited by 3 ghosts. The scene I'm picking, which will never fail to make me cry, is when Frank Ross crashes the broadcast and gives a speech directly to the viewers. Watching this movie again, I realise that there's no music under this scene, unlike many other films on this list which rely almost entirely on their score. Here, it's simply Bill Murray talking at the audience with an unmatched amount of passion about the true meaning of Christmas. I don't know just how much was scripted or how much was improvised, as you can see him stumbling over his words, which only serves to make the speech all the more raw and powerful. And quite literally the character of Frank Ross pouring out his soul to you. I think this all speaks to Bill Murray's incredible acting in this scene. He may well suck in real life, but I can't deny how good of an actor he is, that he can literally just speak directly to me to make me cry. No one's been able to do that since my alcoholic stepdad. Seriously though, this is really a beautiful speech and definitely cry-worthy. Fred Claus isn't a good movie. I know that. It's 2 hours of Vince Vaughn being his Vince Vaughniest. Paul Giamatti is playing Santa, and Kevin Spacey plays the villain, as he does in real life. So, Vince Vaughn plays Santa's brother, who doesn't get on with Santa, and there's a lot of sibling rivalry in the film. They learn to get on, and Fred has to save Christmas, blah blah blah. Very predictable stuff. But for 2 minutes near the end, everyone just shuts up, and all the creepy CGI elves watch as all the children of the world open their presents, accompanied only by the haunting sound of Sinead O'Connor's cover of Silent Night. I can't play it here obviously, but give the song a listen, it's hauntingly beautiful. Santa then walks up to Fred and tells him, "You're the best big brother anybody could ever ask for." And there it is. Can a bad film be saved by a single scene? I don't know. But this is probably the best case for that argument. Home Alone is cry-worthy thanks to this guy, Old Man Marley, A character who is mostly superfluous to the plot, and his inclusion in the film even breaks the story when you start to realise that why is Kevin not telling him about the criminals coming after him now that he trusts this man? But after many watches of this film, I started to realise that he is integral to the plot, because he acts as a mirror to Kevin's own journey of realising the importance of family and not being alone at Christmas, showing just how his life could turn out if he did abandon the notion of family altogether. Or, according to this theory on Reddit, Old Man Marley literally is Kevin from the future. Marley is also important because it feeds into Kevin's growth of conquering his fears, and he even saves Kevin at the end. Okay, so maybe he's not totally superfluous. So, how he makes this film cry-worthy is after we learn his backstory that he doesn't speak to his family anymore, Kevin tells him to try to reconnect with them. So, at the end of a film, once Kevin's family is reunited with him, and your heart has already been pretty nicely warmed, the music then quietens a bit, and we follow Kevin as he spots something out the window. Then, with no words spoken, we understand everything we need to. Marley has reconciled with his family, he's getting his happy ending as well. Then, just as the music swells to a crescendo, he waves to Kevin, and us too. And there it is, right there. I watched Home Alone this year with the accompaniment of a full orchestra, and it was amazing. It showed just how good the music of this film was, and how it can really just drag the tears from my eyes. Muppets Christmas Carol. For this film, it's difficult to pinpoint exactly when I start crying, as the tears build all the way through the second half of this film. Starting with Bob Cratchit's family having dinner and singing Bless Us All. I never used to be a huge fan of that song, but I've grown to appreciate just how sincere it is. That's why the film works so well, as despite it being a Muppet film, it really knows when to stop being funny. For example, Gonzo and Rizzo leave the film during the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come's whole bit, just to give more weight and gravitas to these scenes. So then we visit the Cratchit family again, except now Tiny Tim has died. In every other version of A Christmas Carol, I'm never too fussed about Tiny Tim's death, but this stupid bit of green felt makes me feel for him more than any other adaptation of this character. Then we get the scene with Beaker giving Scrooge his scarf, and I'm definitely crying by this point. And do so throughout the next 5 minutes with the song Love Is Found. This is just a phenomenal film with way too many parts that tug at the heartstrings. And now we come to the final film on our list, Klaus, which is also the most recent film on this list. But damn was it a good one. A Netflix-made 2D animated film which blows me away with how good it is every year I watch it. If you haven't seen it, pause the video now and go watch it. I'll happily wait. You back? How good was that film, right? It was amazing, wasn't it? So the part that makes me cry with a lot of these films is the ending. Here, an old and tired Klaus steps into the afterlife to be with his dead wife. Yeah, heavy stuff. His best friend Jasper looks for him everywhere but can't find him. We then skip a few years into the future where we find out Jasper now has a family and kids, and then he sits in front of a fireplace and explains that once a year his friend comes back. We hear that faint sound of bells, he looks up, and the film ends. It's incredibly simple but amazingly effective. In researching for this video, I found out there was originally a different ending planned where they totally over-explain it, making Jasper travel to the North Pole to see Klaus, and it just overdoes it. Thankfully, they realised that less is more, and I'm glad they did, as it's now one of my favourite Christmas films. So that was it. That was 7 films which always make me cry whenever I watch them. Are there any Christmas films that I didn't list here that get you crying? If so, be sure to let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and Merry Christmas.